Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Coordinated. Today we have the product manager of Nethermind's Restaking front. Like, I'm sure you guys have heard of Nethermind if you're in crypto for a little bit. Thanks for Clem for coming in, and just want you to introduce yourself to the listeners of this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing to meet everyone on this podcast. And I see that Satyaki has been interviewing a lot of people. So you guys have gotten a lot of cool insights into the restaking space already. So I'm Clem, and I look after sort of the restaking side of Nethermind. And we recently launched a new dashboard called Restaking.info. And I'm sure we'll discuss a bit more about it soon. But a general gist of it is we're trying to make sure the restaking space is transparent, and we're trying to provide people with insights into both yield and also risk in the space as well. And yeah, we've been working really closely with EigenLayer, and that's been really exciting to be in the hot topic of Web3 during this cycle. So yeah.
I think cool. I think this is a nice and very precise intro of yourself. And before we going deep into Nethermind's restaking front and the restaking info thing which you mentioned and the EigenLayer stuff, we'd like to know how you came into crypto and after that is Nethermind.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of people, during 2017 bull run, came into crypto, bought my first ETH. I think at the time it was probably a couple $100. Wish I still had a lot of that ETH. That would be amazing. But yeah, got started with buying some ETH. But then I was a bit more interested in really the decentralized world computer idea. I know we had an event a couple of days ago, World Computer Day, which was really cool. But that was the big idea that I was really interested in, right? Like decentralization, DeFi. Because I've seen a lot of people, with traditional fiat systems, they work really hard overseas, and then they move countries, but the country doesn't let them move their money. And I was just like, oh, crypto just makes a lot of sense, right? You worked hard for that money. Why shouldn't you be able to move it where you want it, right? And that kind of started a bug, and I got into it more and more and more. And then actually, I was working in New Zealand at the time. There weren't a lot of crypto opportunities there. And then I moved to Australia to look for crypto opportunities. And I came across a little company at the time who was working on blockchain and NFTs during 2022, before the hype started. And essentially, they were focused on gaming. And now they're huge. During the year I was there, we managed to launch a token. We launched a new Immutable X network, and now they're pretty massive. I think at one point we were top 30, top 50 tokens in the world, and it was really focused on digitizing real world assets like gaming assets, and essentially just making that use case. And they already built a game called Gods Unchained at the time, and then they decided, hey, why don't we use the tech that we build for Gods Unchained for other games as well. And then that I got started. That was my first crypto company that I worked for. And then I sort of took a break for a little bit, and then a friend introduced me to Nethermind, who was also previously at Immutable, and that's how I kind of got into Nethermind. And it's the first time I heard about restaking, but when I heard about it, it just made a lot of sense, right? Reusing the capital to secure more applications and lower the barrier to entries for a lot of these up and coming sort of decentralized projects. So it was really, really cool. Really, really excited.
Amazing. From I think the last cycle, many people were into NFTs and gamings, and from there you switched. I think I've seen this transformation for various protocols. I think last cycle were those into NFTs and all those stuff. They're more into memes and consumer apps. I think you just took a little harder approach. Obviously consumer apps is also harder, but I think for me it's infra is very it consumes much more brain power of yours. I think pretty interesting side on that. I think as you mentioned when we just started our conversation, you are kind of heading restaking the entire the entire head of product of Nethermind's restaking front.
That sounds great. I think just product manager, but that's amazing. I'll take it. I'll take it. It sounds good. Yeah.
So like before going on to the product, which is the main focus, Restaking.info, just want to know. I think Nethermind has lots of brain powers, lots of gigabrain people. They are building like Ethereum clients. I think lots of stuff with Starknet. I think they contributed to Cairo. Some EigenLayer core components also. I think they have contributed a little bit here and there. My question is why Nethermind chose the restaking front, basically.
I think it was just a really, really popular sector, and like we could see the benefits that restaking could bring to the Ethereum ecosystem. Right when EigenLayer launched, we saw that it could unlock a lot of capital and, like I said, reduce the barrier to entry for a lot of these up and coming projects. And I think it's something that we think will benefit the ecosystem in the long term. Obviously, it's early days. But I think we like to be involved in sort of that fundamental kickoff of a project where we can help influence, the direction. We can provide our expertise on how to design these protocols, design the tooling around the protocols and stuff like that. And yeah, ultimately, we just think like it's going to be a big benefit for the Ethereum ecosystem in the long term. And so we're excited to get into that.
Nice. I think that sets up the context to like go to the further parts. Like one thing is, I'm talking with many people in like DevCon, like since we are trying to like do this for EigenLayer and like the Ethereum ecosystem overall. People are saying, okay, EigenLayer hype is dead, restaking hype is dead. It isn't dead, first of all, obviously. But another important thing is many people are perceiving is, okay, it's just about like restaking. You used to stake, you used to get 3%, now you restake, you get more money. Like I want to know a little bit in depth if you can explain from a little technical perspective what EigenLayer is and like where kind of like, as you already mentioned, how Nethermind wants to like help in, but if you can give us a little technical overview, what EigenLayer is from your perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, if we talk about EigenLayer, really you're kind of pulling security together, right? So instead of all of these individual projects having to go and find their own security and bootstrap their own network of validators and operators, essentially we're saying, hey, why don't we pull all of these validators together, all of this security together, and then we can share it, with all the different ABSs and like, again, lower that barrier to entry for these infrastructure projects to come on, because bootstrapping your own validator network is tough, right? Like you got to do all the marketing, you got to incentivize people, and especially you got to like incentivize people to give up their staking on the native ETH chain and say, hey, like, get rid of your 2.9% or 3% and go and validate my network instead, which is a bit risky because it's a new project as well. If you want to get like, say, some of the ABSs have like what, maybe 10, 11 billion in sort of pooled security right now. If they wanted to do that on their own chain, it would cost them so much money to market and also incentivize and provide the yields for these stakers to get that same level of security. And so the idea around it is really just taking all of this stake that's already available on Ethereum, layer 1, bunching up together in pooled security. And I think there's some further details and changes in EigenLayer that we'll chat about soon that kind of change a bit of the technicalities of how that works as we move forward. But the general idea is pooled security and sort of access to validators and operators to run your software without you having to go and build this marketplace yourself and build this network yourself.
So one thing what I'm seeing EigenLayer guys are trying to focus heavily on is sound AVS projects, right? Now, like, want to know your thoughts basically around that, like what EigenLayer like should do, like basically like how more and more quality AVSs can be built on that, so that the end users eventually come in. I think they're doing a few things and all, but from a product perspective, what do you think EigenLayer should do so that AVSs come and like, let's say, build on them and it is an easy journey for them?
Yeah, I think so having a chat to a lot of like people from EigenLayer already, like I think a huge focus for them is sort of making the whole network really flexible. So I don't think and decentralized. So I don't think we want this sort of like gated or permissioned entry of ABSs. So the idea is to, let people come on board with their ABSs and say, hey, if you want to run an ABS, you can build an ABS on EigenLayer. What will ultimately determine whether the ABS is good or not or valuable or not is, the users, right, and the yield. And the marketplace will eventually decide whether or not like people will delegate stake towards that ABS, right? So if that ABS is useless, then the LRT is not going to, delegate stake towards that ABS or run that ABS software, and the same for, native stakers and LST stakers and stuff like that. So ultimately, they're creating a marketplace, but they're not, I don't think they plan on actually sort of like regulating who can build an ABS or not. Like it will be up to the marketplace to decide. And in terms of like onboarding ABSs and making that easier, I think we're starting to see a lot more tooling. The tooling get better and better, right? So we've got things like the authentic stack for people. We've got things from EigenLayer who are creating like an ABS builder wizard. And then I recently met someone during this week as well who is creating a service to help people launch ABSs. So I think the tooling and the community is getting bigger and bigger, and that will make things easier for people to build ABSs on EigenLayer. And I think that's really, really exciting, right? Lowering the barrier to entry yet again. And I think a lot of the things that we do is probably towards lowering the barrier to entry for a lot of these decentralized networks. And, over the long term, that's going to open more opportunities for a decentralized world. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, I think that like set up the context for like what like Restaking.info is, because I think the names like as I mentioned, like restaking is like not ideally is not about only restaking, but restaking is an important element of it, and there are lots of moving components, and that's why I wanted to know your thoughts around like what EigenLayer is and how the ABSs kick in. Now we'll like go to the meat of the discussion where you comes in and your most of the time like your day job is going, or your main focus at this moment is Restaking.info. Like honestly, when I found about it, I was like, okay, fine. There is this dedicated EigenLayer like dashboard which is tracked. But when I saw Nethermind is building it, it grabbed my attention because when I little know about the team, and like as we were discussing also, we met Tomasz last year in India. And it was he is very focused, straightforward, and he knows what he's doing. And we all know the contribution of Nethermind to what Ethereum is. So it grabbed my attention, and I was like, no, like I want to know more about this thing and everything. So I think people who are tracking the EigenLayer ecosystem, and many listeners of this podcast will obviously have come across Restaking.info. I know although the social media followers are not that big, or like the marketing has not been done yet. We'll come to that later, the GTMs and all. But before that, I just want to know from you, like, what is Restaking.info? And like I am like pinning another question with that so that we get the meat in the very opening discussion. Like how it is, like why somebody will go to Restaking.info where we have, let's say, DeFi Llama. I know they don't track EigenLayer dashboard, but when they have data distribution, already a data audience ready, let's say Dune Flipside, and another project which is EigenPy, and maybe EigenLayer itself, their own dashboard. Like why, what is Restaking.info? And the follow-up question is like the USPs and why somebody will choose Restaking.info too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Restaking.info, kind of our vision for it is really to bring like lots of transparency to the restaking space. So highlighting yields, but also at the same time the risks that are involved in restaking. And sort of like there are a ton of dashboards, a ton of community dashboards out there for EigenLayer and restaking in general. But where we sort of try to differ ourselves is usability. And sort of we provide like more than just the basic information. So I don't want to talk too much about each individual dashboard because I could go on for days, and I don't think that's the kind of podcast we're having here. But like I think just from our side, we want to make sure that usability and highlighting the key information that we think are relevant to restakers is front and center and easy to find and easy to use, right? So you'll see that I think we're probably one of the only ones with like graphs on like TVLs, restakers, and soon to be like rewards as well, which we'll discuss in a moment. So that'll be coming really soon. I think there are a lot of other dashboards out there as well who are like part of other bigger dashboards, and sort of like they look at a very specific piece. I know some, for example, look at liquidity pools. Some track like the high level metrics of the total TVL. But we try to again like focus on what is important to the restaker, what is important to the researcher who's looking at the health and viability of restaking. And we try to focus on the features that are required there. So like, for example, we have like rewards feature coming out soon. You guys are getting a little bit of an alpha of what's coming. But like in our rewards feature, we go in depth that I don't think I've seen anywhere else before, where you can actually see like how rewards are changing week by week from the actual snapshots that are being produced. You can see all the token breakdowns. You can see the graphs of how rewards are changing over time. And it's not just a simple APR value, right? Like you can see all the details that are important to people. And I think that's really, really exciting. So yeah, we try to focus and be the most usable dashboard and really focused on that restaking user and not sort of like broader user groups. So it's more specialized.
And like I think one of the very great tools which I personally like, I think you being a data guy will obviously like that, will like L2Beat, what they have done. Like I think they are the UI they have built is like a very like attractive to a, let's say, normie, like who is not very research oriented, but at the same time all the data which they provide is very like technical in nature, and like it will help even a like somebody from Ethereum Foundation, I'm assuming, a very research oriented guy. So like want to know about I think like in that way L2Bit is a very balanced protocol or a project, if I mention in that way. But let's say I find one discrepancy. There are like not discrepancy. Like, there are some like some projects which are catered towards retail, and like there are some projects which are catered towards like the institutions or the researchers part. Like want to know how a Restaking.info is like initially catering to. Is it the restakers or the big researchers institutions?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we're kind of like focused on sort of like being more of a balanced platform at the moment. So we're focused on restakers, but also more like protocol accountability is sort of like the key thing that we look at, right? And transparency. So we haven't really gotten to the features yet. That sort of it's still an early project. It's a relatively small team. We've got a lot of features that we want to add. At the moment, it hasn't really diverged into it's focused on restakers or like it's focused on researchers, but at the moment it's sort of usable by everyone. But I think the fact that the dashboard, we try to say like, hey, what's really important to us is data accuracy, and sort of like what's important to these various groups. So like we've encountered some projects where, for example, the TVL that the value is being shown is a bit inflated because it's not just the strategies that the AVS are using, but they're accounting like the entire TVL of the operator. So it's like little details like that I think we try to pay close attention to, and we take data accuracy very seriously. And like if the data is not accurate, we just won't release the feature. We'll just keep iterating and make sure it's right. And so, yeah, I guess we're kind of like, we have some principles that we're working towards. One is data accuracy and one is usability and ease of use. So, for example, there are some dashboards out there, I should say, which are like quite big and have a lot of information, but it's very difficult to digest. But if you have a look at Restaking.info, like the navigation, the different pages, it's very easy to navigate and understand like how they relate to each other. And we place a lot of emphasis on that. So data accuracy, usability. Is the short story. Yeah.
Cool. I think, like as you mentioned, I think the rewards part, which is kind of the alpha of this podcast, if I mention in that way.
I guess so.
I think if I understand correctly, I think the rewards are basically for the operators, right? Who are running the AVS nodes.
So for both, so like the restakers and also the operators.
Okay.
The way that the current fee structure works for EigenLayer is that all rewards or programmatic incentives that are released, 90% of it goes to the original staker, and operators get to keep 10%. So, and that's the same for every single operator. So every operator takes 10%. There are a couple of updates that the EigenLayer team are currently considering, which is to provide for multiple options in terms of operator fees. So different operators can set different fees, and that's going to be really interesting because some operators might provide a very basic service or very basic service level guarantee or something like that. But then other operators, maybe based on their reputation or the service they provide or the guarantees they provide, might charge a higher fee. It's going to be a really interesting dynamic introduced into the space because right now it's very simple. A lot of AVSs aren't paying rewards, except ARPA and EigenDA. But I think, later on, people are going to be more selective with their operators and their AVSs, and this is another dimension that people are going to have a look at as well.
So basically, just if I am, let me know if I'm thinking it correctly. Let's say now I think we're talking with lots of people and like slashing is also not enabled. And one thing, as you mentioned, only two projects with two AVSs which are actually rewarding basically. I am seeing, let's say down the line in 6 months, like slashing will be enabled and the rewards flow will be proper. With this reward feature, right? Like if I'm an operator, I can actually see properly, should I run a AVS node or something like that?
Yeah.
Something like that will be...
Yeah. So you'll be able to see which AVSs are paying out the most rewards. And then from there, you can choose which ones you want to run. But I guess just a bit of insight maybe into how operators are thinking. It's not just, hey, this one pays the most yield, let's run that one. There are a lot more things for operators to consider, right? Because right now the slashing is not really defined yet, right? But there are a lot of different ways that it could work. So firstly, they're introducing a new security model. So total stake and unique stake. But there's a lot of details there, and if you have questions, we can talk about that. But there's one part which is, okay, you'll slash my principal. That could be one slashing mechanism, right, or strategy. But I recently talked to a few people, and they suggested maybe instead of slashing the principal, we can do things like rewards sanctions, or we can prevent you from earning rewards if you do something bad. Or if you have already earned rewards, we won't pay out those rewards. So at the moment, it's a really interesting time for EigenLayer and the restaking space because there's a lot of experimentation going on in terms of what is the best way to hold operators account, and what's the best way to reward people. So I would say at the moment there's nothing solid, but there are lots of different ideas on how that could work, especially with the new security model.
I think I studied a little bit about the new security model, as you mentioned, total stake and unique stake. I think, let me know if I'm got it correctly. I think previously it was the entire restate capital was at risk, if I get it correctly, or something along that line. I think with the new unique stake model, I think only a part of your exposed capital is at risk, some 10% or something like that, and that.
Close.
So if you can let us know a little bit about this part.
I'm happy to dive into that a bit more. So at the moment, let's say you've got an operator with 10 billion, right, delegated stake. At the moment, let's say that operator runs 10 AVSs. Each AVS has 10 billion in security, right? In pooled security. But with the new model, it kind of has two different things. So in the old model, effectively, you kind of have like, 100 billion worth of pooled security, like across the various effective security, maybe that's a better way of saying it. But with the new model, they have two different things. So they have both total stake and sort of like unique stake. And so they're different. So the total stake part operates very similarly to the current delegated stake model, right? Where the total stake can be used by all the AVSs that are operated by that particular operator. But with the unique stake, there's a maximum of 100% that can go to all AVSs. So you can't do, let's say, 1,000% across 10 AVSs anymore. It's across all 10 AVSs, there has to be 100%. So maybe you might be like 10% across all of them evenly, or you might do like 20, 30, and then much smaller gaps. And let's say you delegate 10% of your unique stake to AVS A. AVS A can only slash that 10% of unique stake, right? It cannot slash the remaining 90% of unique stake that you allocated to other AVSs. There's a more interesting thing that's coming, which is operator sets as well, which gives even more flexibility, where like each AVS can have multiple different strategies, where like for example, an AVS can have a full node, a light node, or something, and each of them can have their own slashable conditions and stuff like that. So it's ultimate flexibility from the EigenLayer team. It's a little bit hard to get your head around at first, but it's a lot of flexibility. And so what we're thinking is maybe the total stake, which is available to everyone, but it's not slashable, right? Might be cheaper. So if your AVS doesn't require slashable stake, then maybe you can opt in for total stake and it will be cheaper for you. But if, let's say, you're running a DeFi protocol or something like that, where it's really important that people are not incentivized to do the wrong thing, you might opt to go for the unique stake, and because it's more limited in supply, the cost might be more expensive. And that's why people are kind of also experimenting with different slashing mechanisms, right? So instead of going for the unique stake, which is slashable, maybe they can use the total stake, which is not slashable, but they can have a lot more of it. And also, like, they can just sanction your rewards. So if you behave badly, we'll just say, hey, operator A, all the rewards that you've earned, like you don't have them anymore, right? Like, you got to start from 0, or you cannot earn rewards for X amount of time. And I want to give credit to Ismail from Lagrange as well, who kind of like sort of like brought up some of these ideas. So it's really, really cool to hear.
Like we had a session with him. I think that was pretty short and very in a little like hurry and all. I would like to go deeper into what Lagrange is building. We just had an overview what they're doing. And I think he's contributing a lot to the like EigenLayer ecosystem.
Definitely. Really smart guys. Really glad to have actually chat with him the other day. And very insightful.
Cool. I think when I was also like I read the blog. I don't know they released a paper around that, but I think I read the blog around the security model. I think I got some parts of it. I asked a few questions. Then DevCon came and there are a few unanswered questions there, but I think I got some clarity. But I think, as you mentioned, it is not an easy thing, at least of my people, like of someone like me. I need to, I think, study a few more time to get what the security model is and what are all the flexibilities which they are bringing and everything.
Oh, I mean, even for me, I had to go through it a couple of times. So don't put it on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself,
I think I remember, if Alton from Naufal, right? It's not about remember, it's about remembering his tweet. What he tweeted the day when they released the thread and the blog of the security model. And I think there are lots of EigenLayer announcements which are keep on coming. He just tweeted, hey, I'm not Sriram. You just can't release like a new EigenLayer update daily. Just wait, guys. Something like that he mentioned. Like when I saw, okay, the founder of Nuffle Labs is mentioning something like that, I got, okay, I also have confidence. I am not the only one who is not getting what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, really smart people at EigenLayer, right? A lot of them are like PhD, PhD guys. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a degree even. So like, you know, it takes me a few times to kind of get it.
Yeah.
But like eventually you get there, and I'm sure you will as well. And hopefully, you know, hopefully my explanation has helped a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for your explanation. And like I think we can have sometime you like in the later episodes where you like kind of give us a deep dive on the EigenLayer. Like, I think there are lots of unanswered questions, lots of things. Even after people reading it for a long time, they're clueless. I love to have you again. I think for now, like let's like kind of get back to quickly on the restaking info. Few questions around that. I think as you were mentioning all the features which are on the restaking info and all, and you are building on the new features. What are the like? I think this will be irrespective of restaking info. Like this kind of features might be available on some other protocols, and they can just query it out, or you guys can build it later. But for a normie user, let's say a restaker or somebody who like basically a restaker friend, I just want to know at first, what are the few metrics they should know by seeing a dashboard? Okay, I'm seeing this like this AVS, this operators or something like that, and like basically this, what I want to say is ki, which all metrics a restaker must see, and they can like trust that liquid restaking protocol, whoever is, or the operator whoever is restaking their ETH. Like what are the metrics a restaker should see and trust the process of the restaking basically?
Yeah, I think there are a few metrics that people could look at, but because we're so early, actually, like a lot of the metrics just aren't available yet. So there are a lot of things on our pipeline, for example, where we're like, oh, we're waiting for certain metrics to be available at the protocol layer, right? So things like slashable conditions, all of these things are just not available yet. So I think the insight you can get at the moment is maybe a bit limited by where you know, the protocol is at in its early stage development. So I can speak to maybe, you know, like what might be useful now and then what might be useful when the protocol develops further. So I think, you know, there's the yield side of things, and then there's also the risk side of things, right? So there are metrics for both. So obviously, right now, there's very limited information on the yield side, but for example, when our feature comes out, you'll be able to see, you know, how much has been paid in total by each of the AVSs. You'll also be able to, I guess, differentiate between the programmatic rewards or like the programmatic incentives that have been provided for EigenLayer for the first year. So I think at the moment, a key metric to look at is also like what is being paid by the actual AVSs and not the programmatic incentives, because the programmatic incentives only last a year. After that, we're not really sure if it's going to continue or like it might, you know, something else new might come out. But I think it's important for you to take a look at the AVSs themselves and what they're paying, because the current programmatic incentives are so large that it kind of outweighs a lot of the payments that are being made by AVSs. So you want to maybe like don't look at that for now, and like focus on the AVSs, so you can kind of see like what's actually happening on that front. So yeah, what the AVSs are paying out is one big thing. The other thing you might want to take a look at as well a bit further on is sort of like from the risk side. So are they using total stake or are they using unique stake, right? Because there are certain security implications based on that, right? If the stake is not slashable, then you need to go further and you need to check, okay, if they're not using unique stake, which is slashable, are they implementing some sort of other disincentive for operators to behave properly?
Just one thing around this. Yeah. This is not live yet, right? This is what like EigenLayer is lacking currently. Like people can't see the risks because slashing is not enabled. Is it what it is?
So rewards have just come out like maybe a month and a bit ago. But slashing is probably late Q4, maybe early Q1. That's kind of the target at the moment. So you won't be able to see a lot of these risks anywhere at the moment. Because we just don't have that information from the ABSs yet. So keep an eye out for like Q4, Q1, and like hopefully we'll have more information for the community then. At the moment, really the best thing is to take a look at the ABS page themselves, maybe a white paper if they have it, and see what is their plans for the future, and how do they plan on implementing slashing, how do they plan on implementing rewards. At Restaking.info will always try and bring this information in as simple of a way as possible. And currently, a lot of the operators are actually creating their own ABS risk assessment guide. So we're doing one at Nethermind. A few other operators are also compiling their own risk assessment framework. And so as kind of that risk assessment framework gets built out and gets used more and more and maybe iterated here and there, like it'll be, I think, part of what we want to do at Restaking.info is to have those risk analysis published on our site, so that people can, in an easy way, understand what the risks are involved in each particular ABS. And if you are invested in restaking through an LRT, then understanding which ABSs each LRT is running, and then going down a level deeper, what are the risks of each of those ABSs.
I think like there are many things which are currently pending from the EigenLayer team itself. I think they have brought out the vision and 100 plus ABSs which are building now, lots of toolings which Restaking.info coming up, and I'm sure we are going to have you very soon in another podcast to let people educate about the EigenLayer project itself, because since you're a product manager, you have much more footholding in the tech front. And I think in my little understanding, somebody who is in tech, it's very difficult for even a communicator who can understand tech like me to showcase or understand what EigenLayer is building holistically. It needs a technical angle. For sure, we'll have you soon. One last question before we wrap up at least today's episode, because we can go on and on. It is what's the Nethermind's plan for the, let's say, not restaking an EigenLayer? Is it focusing going deep into these dashboards and all, or do they have other plans in restaking front?
Yeah, so I mean, we run an operator ourselves. So we're actually, that's how we're learning a lot about the ecosystem, what's good, the challenges that are coming. And then we provide this feedback back to EigenLayer, and then we iterate it as a community. So we run an operator, and as a result of that, we also run a lot of ABSs. Right, so we learn about how each ABS operates, how they do things differently from each other.
And just to one thing, how much do you have any ballpark number? What is the total restaked ETH which is in the Nethermind operator thing?
The ETH number I'm not 100% certain on, but in terms of the USD value, it's over 20 million, something like that.
Okay, so it's a relatively new operator, something like that.
Yeah, it's fairly new, but we also run operators for other LRTs as well. So such as EtherFi. So if you check it out on Restaking.info, you can see the operator that we run for them or alongside them. And so yeah, if you're an LRT and you want to leverage Nethermind's operator expertise, feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to look into that and help you out as well. We run a ton of infrastructure at Nethermind. So we know we have a full SRE team and everything, looking after those infrastructure that we run. So yeah, we run the operators, and we also have the restaking dashboard, and we run a bunch of ABSs as well. And as the community grows and the restaking space grows, there may be more opportunity for us to get involved. Like, for example, helping EigenLayer or other restaking protocols on you know, how to design the tokenomics or like how to design tooling and so on. Yeah, like, you know, it's still early days. Everything's still growing. It's a very new area of Web3. So I'm sure like if it continues to grow, we'll continue like seeing more things in that space.
Yeah.
From Nethermind.
Cool. I think thank you so much. I think we are all a little started draining out of the DevCon week because we're all having sleepless nights, attending multiple events, talking to so much of people. I think thanks for doing this, like Clem, and I think we'll surely have you like in future episodes.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Like amazing to meet both of you. So yeah.